and welcome to the show, y'all. The ripple effects of crime affects the lives of the people that are related to the victims and the perpetrator of the crimes for years and years and years, and sometimes forever. But we tend to forget about those individuals when we think about, those crimes that happen, whether it be drug stuff, violent crimes, stuff like that, right? We tend to forget about the people's lives that are changed, is flipped upside down because of those decisions that the few of us make when we decide to get into the criminal lifestyle. Everybody's watching the headlines and see people get arrested, see people get taken to jail, see people get found guilty in court, sent off to prison and all this and that. And everybody's asking about those individuals. How did it, what is Joe T doing in prison, this and that. But what I would love for people to focus on, I appreciate the attention, right? But ask the question, how did it affect my two sons? How did it affect my then wife at the time? How did it affect my brothers and sisters? Right? How did it affect my grandparents? How did it affect my victims' sons or daughters or cousins or brothers or parents? Those individuals, how did it affect them long term? See, that's what we tend to forget. See, we think that throwing somebody in prison is the end of the situation. Really, throwing somebody in prison is just another chapter of the book that's being written by choice or force, depending on the mindset of the individual that's committing the crime. And you force these other people, these other characters in this show, to participate in something that they didn't want to participate in. It's not a game. And they have to adjust their lives to fit the script that those of us that choose to live that dumb lifestyle write. We cannot continue to forget about them. And that's what this story here is about. This story is about a young man named, let me make sure I got this name right, named Jason. Now Jason, his father, Stanley, well, I'm going to call him Stanley. His father, Stanley, is friends with this dude named Rick. Y'all forgive me, I'm still a little sick, so you're going to hear me coughing here and there and sipping on this water, trying to keep my, bearings and whatnot. So just ahead of time, please forgive me for that. But Stanley gets into an argument with Rick at a barbecue. It's a family function, they invite friends over and all. And then Stanley and Rick are friends, good friends, been friends for years. And they're at the barbecue and they're drinking and they're smoking and they're having a good time. And they get into an argument, right? They get into an argument about a stupid song that's playing on the radio. Who sung this when, who did this, and it gets it gets out of hand. It gets out of hand. Now the wives of these two individuals try to intercede and tell them to stop it, stop it, stop it. And Rick's wife accidentally gets pushed to the ground. And when she gets pushed to the ground, it pisses him off. And now he gets a little bit more aggressive with Stanley. Stanley's not backing down. He's full of that liquor and that weed. He's not backing down. Now, he runs into the house. Now, the kids are in the house. Stanley has a 1-year-old son upstairs, sleep, right? Rick has kids as well, right? And they're running around playing. And Stanley comes back out of the house. He got that thing. And when he gets outside the house, he's telling Rick, man, look here. Get up off my property. Now, Rick, it was his wife that got pushed to the ground. Stanley gets upset and takes it a little too far. And when Rick tries to talk to him, because while he ran into the house, cooler heads prevailed. Now he's waiting on Stanley to come back out, but Stanley's still hot. And when Stanley gets back out there, he got that pistol, he tell him to leave. And Rick said, hold up, man. And when he said, hold up, because he was trying to talk to him, he shot him straight between the eyes. Didn't hesitate. And immediately when he did that, it was like everything stopped, slow motion. Everything is slow motion now. And Stanley sees everybody looking at him, eyes wide open. Rick's wife falls on top of him, crying, screaming, why did you do this? Why did you do this? He was trying to apologize to you. Why? She looks at him and Rick is looking straight up into the air. He's already gone. And she looks at Stanley and said, you killed my husband. You killed my husband. And right in that moment, her whole demeanor, her whole face, her body, everything changed. The anger, the hatred that she started to feel from him, you could see it in her body. You could see it in her face. She was tense and she was angry. And she was screaming at him. And she's looking at him and he's standing there and he drops the gun. Now Stanley's wife, she's looking and don't know what to do. She don't know what to do. So she tells him to leave, and don't come back. And don't come back, because she knows what's about to happen. She knows. One of the guests that was at the party that lives in the same neighborhood, he calls 911 and tells the police that it's been a killing. The police get there just a few minutes later, and they surround everybody, start taking statements from everybody and all that, and they're looking for Stanley. And one of the guests says that he left. And then they say, well, why did he leave? And then nobody said anything. Everybody looked at his wife. And his wife, not knowing, understanding what to say, she said, I told him to leave and don't come back. I was mad. I was angry about what he did. The police writing all of that down. They writing it down, and he gets on the radio. He tells, you know what I'm saying, at the headquarters, he said, look, we need an APB, all points bulletin, put out on Stanley. Pick him up. He's wanted for connection in a homicide. Oh, every police in the city looking for him now. Everybody. And he's driving his car, you know what I'm saying? But he's not in his right state of mind. He contemplates while he's in the car, taking his life. He contemplates while he's driving around, you know, what is my next move? I don't want to go to prison. I don't want to spend the rest of my life in prison. All of the things that you would think about, right? And he decides to try to make a run for it. And just when he pulls into Walmart to buy, he's going to Walmart, he's going to buy some clothes and he's going to hit the road. The police see him and they recognize him. And they give him that look. And he immediately turns and tries to run back to the car. They chase him down. Tell him to put his hands on the hood. He puts his hands on the hood and he starts to cry. He knows what it is. He said, I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean to do it, as they put the handcuffs on him and they threw him in the back seat. And they took him to jail. He calls his wife and tells his wife that he's been arrested. They booked him on murder. She's so angry, she hangs up the phone. She don't want to talk to him. She don't want to talk. Now, he starts to think about his 1-year-old son that was upstairs sleeping, unaware of all of the drama that was going on around him, unaware of all of that. Didn't see none of this, didn't witness none of this. Don't really have a connection to anybody yet. He's still that young, you know, but he know who his dad is, he know his parents is, all this and that, but he know and he don't know. He know and he don't know. And things got kind of fast after that. Things got kind of fast. You know, the case is open and shut. You got a yard full of witnesses. There's really nothing to fight here, you know. He's just trying to mitigate it and not get life without, you know. So the DA works with it. The DA works with it. He gives him 35 at a Hyundai. Take him away. He's in prison. He calls his wife, you know, his wife named Mary. He calls his wife and begs her to forgive him, saying that he just overreacted. She was so angry at what he was saying. She just really couldn't respond to what he was saying. This is not an overreaction, y'all. This is the deliberate act of somebody that was under the influence and not thinking about tomorrow. Now, she tells him, what about your son? He ain't gonna never get to know you. You locked up. When will you get out? We don't know. Now keep in mind, let me tell you something. He got 35 at a Hyundai, right? 35 at a Hyundai. He's already in his late 20s, early 30s. So he gonna be AARP eligible when he comes up out of there. AARP, y'all know what that is. That's for the old folks. Yeah. Get the discounts when they go to the restaurants, to the movie theater, you know what I'm saying, in certain places when you go shopping. Senior citizen. It's over with. Lay down. So she tells him, I can't do this. I didn't sign up for this. You disappointed me. You let me down. You let your son down. You got to deal with that on your own. He gets off to the phone and he realizes that, you know what I'm saying, some things you just can't fix. Some things you just can't make right. So he took her off his phone list. Didn't fill out the visitation form. Didn't send her any forms. He got a few friends of his on his list. Somebody that could just come and keep his mind off the monotony of being in the penitentiary for 35 years. And he just did his time. Now see, Stanley knew that trying to keep a connection with his wife, soon to be ex-wife, wasn't worth the effort. She didn't want to be around him. She didn't want nothing to do with him. She felt like she had lost everything. Everything had gotten flipped upside down, and she was right. Now Rick, his family, the guy that he killed, they were suffering the same thing. See, he had a young daughter. He had a young daughter. And she was going to have to grow up without her father. She was like 3 or 4 years old at the time, but she was old enough but young enough to know her dad and to know to miss him, right? But he's gone now. And her mother, Rick's wife, she decides that she wants to get away from all of this. She cannot bear to stay in this neighborhood, in this community, any longer. So she leaves. She leaves. Moves her family away. Starts her life over somewhere else. Gone. Don't want to be around nobody. And that happens. I remember when my brother, you know what I'm saying, learned the facts about my case. He packed up and he moved to North Carolina. And he's been living there ever since. Living there ever since. Now, I'm not going to say that my brother wasn't going to move out of state anyway, but I'll never forget when I asked him, bro, why you going to North Carolina? He said, well, I don't even want to be down here no more. I think it was because I embarrassed him. And I did. I embarrassed my family. I shamed my family by doing what I did. I knew better. And he didn't want to be down here in Tennessee no more. And I wear that every day. So I understand. So now you got two families that their lives have been flipped upside down. Two families. Now Mary, she decides, just like Rick's wife did, to pack up and leave too. She wants to get away from it all. She don't want to deal with it anymore. She don't want to be bothered by it. She don't want to remember it. She don't want to remember none of it. All she wants to do is get away and start life fresh, somewhere else, away from everybody. Something new. And she does. She moves to another state. She moves to another state, New York, upstate. And she meets this man and she falls in love. She never thought that she would fall in love with anybody ever again because her heart was guarded. She didn't want to be bothered. All of these different types of things. But they worked at the same place. They were around people a lot and he was at her. You know what I'm saying? They go out to lunch. He's buying her stuff to eat. He's talking to her and she starts to open up to him and share things with him. But she was really guarded about their son. Her son. And he told her, if she didn't mind, one day he'd like to take her out, meet her son, all of these different types of things. He was really digging her. And she let him know, like any parent would, I don't play about my child. And he respected that. He respected all of that. And he decided that, if he was going to be in her life, he was going to have to be instrumental in that little boy's life. And so he did. So he made sure that their first date, this is after maybe a year or two, so he's 3 at this time, okay? Their first date, he wanted it to be in the park, nice sunny day, so that he could play with the little boy. And he showered that little boy with attention, and she loved that because she knew that's what her son was going to need. He was going to need somebody in his life that really was there for him, somebody that he could depend on and she could depend on to be there. Not like Stanley. Not like Stanley. And she fell in love with this dude. And they ended up getting married. And he adopted her son as his own. See, Stanley didn't want to sign the papers, but he went on and relented and did. And he went on and you know what I'm saying? And because he felt as though if this is what she wants, he would give that to her. At least he could give her something that she wanted. And he did. So dude is raising his son. He raising his son. He playing football with him. He getting him involved in sports and all of these different things because he's growing up and he's getting older. And he sees this dude as his pops. He sees this dude as his pop. Now we're going to call his pops Tim. That's not his name, but we're going to use Tim. So Tim is bonding with this boy. He ain't had no kids of his own. So he's really taking on this role like he's a natural. And when the little boy was like 6 or 7, he wants to get him involved in some activities, sporting activities and all this. And the little boy is afraid, and he's out in the backyard every single night playing with him, teaching him, and all this and that, just having fun with him, building his confidence up. And the little boy really latches to him. He sees him as pops. Now, Rick's family, coincidentally, they ended up in the same area. And they never saw each other, though. And, Rick's wife remarried and met somebody that really loved and cared about her and didn't care about her past and the things like, cause she was a little fast, out there in the streets and all this and that. Her and Rick moved real fast, And so when she met this guy, she slowed her life down because she needed somebody that she could depend on, just like Stanley's wife and ex-wife. And when she fell in love with him, he asked her to marry, and she was a little hesitant to do it. And over time, it just didn't become a big deal, and they were just together, not husband and wife, but they were together. But the daughter, she saw him as her father. She knew her father had been murdered. She didn't forget her father. She kept a picture of her father. But his memories, what he looked like, was being replaced, not with malice, but his memories and what he looked like was being replaced by this dude that her mother had brought into her life, into their lives. And she was really feeling what was going on because she wanted to move on as well. And they were growing up, both of them, growing up as teenagers on 2 different sides of the same state, not knowing each other, but their lives had been changed forever by a similar incident, the same incident. Both of their fathers were gone. Their biological fathers were gone because of a tragic situation. You're going to have to tune in to the next episode. I'm telling you, you don't want to miss how this plays out. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.